I never told her I owned the restaurant. For 3 months, she thought I was just the head chef, working my way through retirement with a spatula and a smile. The morning after our wedding, I found her in my office with my business partner, forging documents to transfer the deed. Follow my story to the end and comment where you're watching from so I can see how far the truth has traveled. My name is Thomas, and at 63, I thought I'd learned all the lessons life had to teach. I was wrong. Let me take you back to where this all started, about 8 months ago, when I walked into my own restaurant and met the woman who would try to take everything from me. I own 3 restaurants in Northern California. The flagship, Brennan's Table, has been my pride for 30 years. After my first wife passed away 5 years ago, I threw myself into work. The kitchen became my therapy. The sizzle of pans, my meditation. My kids worried I was working too hard, but cooking kept me sane. It kept me present. That June evening, we were hosting a charity dinner for the local food bank. I was in the kitchen, naturally, when my manager Sarah came back with a woman I'd never seen before. Tall, elegant, with auburn hair, and a warm smile that lit up the room. She introduced herself as Victoria Hayes, a food blogger covering the event. "Chef," she said, extending her hand, "I've heard incredible things about your ossobuco. Would you mind if I watched you work?" I should have seen it then. The first red flag. She was too interested, too charming, asking all the right questions. But I was lonely, and she made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. Over the next few weeks, Victoria became a regular. She'd come in for dinner, always sitting at the bar where she could see into the kitchen. We'd talk during my breaks. She was recently divorced, she said, with a teenage daughter named Emily who was away at boarding school. She loved food, loved the artistry of it, loved watching me create. "You have such passion for this," she told me one night. "Not many people find work that feeds their soul like this." Looking back, I should have questioned why a successful food blogger with thousands of followers would spend so much time at one restaurant. Why she never seemed to write about anywhere else. Why she always wanted to know about the business side, the suppliers, the profit margins. But I was falling for her. By August, we were dating seriously. She met my kids, Melissa and David, at a family barbecue. Melissa, my sharp-eyed daughter who works in finance, pulled me aside that day. "Dad, don't you think this is moving a little fast? You've only known her 2 months. Your mother and I got engaged after 3 months, I reminded her. That was different. You were 25, not 63. And Mom didn't ask you about your business plans on the first date. She's interested in what I do. That's not a crime." Melissa pressed her lips together. That look she gets when she knows arguing won't help. "Just be careful, okay? Have her sign a prenup if it goes that far." It went that far faster than I expected. Victoria was everything I thought I needed. She was warm, supportive, funny. She made me feel young again. When I mentioned marriage in October, she got tears in her eyes. "Thomas, I never thought I'd find love again after my divorce. You've given me hope." There was the second red flag, right there. When I mentioned the prenup, her whole demeanor changed for just a second, a flash of something cold in her eyes before the warmth returned. "Of course," she said, a little too quickly. "Whatever makes your children comfortable. I'm not marrying you for your money. I have my own career." But she found reasons to delay signing. The lawyer was too expensive. The terms were too complicated. She wanted her own attorney to review it, but kept forgetting to schedule appointments. Finally, she looked at me with those eyes and said, "Thomas, if you don't trust me, maybe we shouldn't do this at all." I caved. God help me. I caved. We got married on a Saturday in November, a small ceremony at Brennan's Table. My kids were there, smiling but tense. "Victoria's daughter Emily couldn't make it from school," she said. Another red flag I ignored. What mother gets married without her daughter present? The ceremony was beautiful. We said our vows in the private dining room, surrounded by flowers and candlelight. Victoria looked radiant in a simple cream dress. When she said "I do," I believed every word. We spent our wedding night at the restaurant's upstairs apartment. I'd been living there since my wife died, finding it easier than going home to an empty house. It was modest but comfortable, with exposed brick walls, and a view of the street below. "This is cozy," Victoria said, looking around. "But we should probably look for something bigger soon, once Emily comes to live with us after she graduates." "Of course," I agreed, kissing her forehead. "Whatever you need." That night, I fell asleep thinking I'd finally found happiness again. I woke up at 6 the next morning to use the bathroom. Victoria wasn't in bed. I figured she was downstairs getting coffee. But as I walked past my home office, I heard voices. The door was slightly ajar. I should have knocked, should have announced myself. But something made me pause, made me listen. "Are you sure this will work?" That was Victoria's voice, but different. Colder, sharper. A man's voice responded. One I didn't recognize. "The documents are perfect, Vic. Once you file these with the county, the restaurant transfers to you. Brennan Hospitality LLC becomes Hayes Hospitality. All 3 locations. And he won't know? Not until it's too late. By the time anyone notices, we'll have already taken out loans against the properties. 2 million, maybe more." "What about his kids?" The man laughed. "What about them? They're not on the deed. Thomas is the sole owner, and soon you'll be his widow." My blood ran cold. "Widow?" Victoria's voice was calculating. "How soon can we move him to the memory care facility? I've got a doctor who'll sign off on early onset dementia. With your testimony about his confusion and forgetfulness, it'll be easy. We medicate him for a few weeks. Get him disoriented, then commit him. Once he's locked up, you have power of attorney." I felt my legs go weak. I grabbed the door frame to steady myself. "And Marcus, you're sure about the timeline?" Victoria asked. So this man was Marcus. I filed the name away. 6 months max. We liquidate the assets, transfer everything offshore, and disappear. You'll finally get what you deserve after all those years waiting tables. Victoria laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. To think, I almost gave up after the last 2 didn't work out. But this one, Marcus, this one's the jackpot. 3 restaurants, prime real estate, and he's so desperate for companionship he didn't even make me sign the prenup. That's my girl. Always patient, always playing the long game. The daughter was a nice touch, wasn't it? The boarding school story? You don't even have a daughter, Vic. That was pure genius. I had to grip the wall harder. Emily didn't exist. The whole thing, every word, every tear, every tender moment was a lie. "So we proceed as planned," Victoria said. "I'll start the concerned wife act tomorrow. Mention to Sarah and the staff that Thomas seems forgetful. Plant the seeds." "Perfect. I'll get the medical documents ready. We'll start the medication by Wednesday." "What about his kids?" "They'll contest, but by then we'll have everything moved. And honestly, who's going to believe them over a concerned wife and medical records?" I'd heard enough. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely turn the doorknob quietly. I made it back to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, my heart hammering against my ribs. Everything was a lie. All of it. The food blogger story, the interest in my cooking, the connection I thought we shared. She was a con artist, and I was her mark. And if I didn't do something fast, I'd end up drugged and locked away while she stole everything I'd built. I had to think. Had to be smart. If I confronted her now, she'd know I'd heard. She might accelerate the plan. I needed time, needed evidence, needed help, but I also needed to know exactly who I was dealing with. I pretended to be asleep when Victoria came back to bed 20 minutes later. She kissed my cheek gently, playing the loving wife. My skin crawled. "Good morning, husband," she whispered. I forced myself to smile, to pull her close, to play along. "Good morning, wife." We went downstairs for breakfast at the restaurant. The Sunday brunch service was in full swing. I went through the motions, greeting regulars, checking on the kitchen, acting like everything was normal. But my mind was racing. Sarah found me in the walk-in cooler, where I'd gone to catch my breath. "Boss, you okay? You look pale." Sarah had been with me for 15 years. I trusted her with my life, but I couldn't tell her everything. Not yet. Not until I had a plan. "I'm fine, just tired. Long night." She gave me a knowing smile. "Well, you did just get married? You're allowed to be tired." If she only knew. That afternoon, while Victoria went to run errands, I called my lawyer, Richard Sterling. We'd known each other for 30 years. If anyone could help me, it was Richard. Tom, congratulations on the wedding. How's married life? Richard, I need to see you. Today. It's urgent. His tone changed immediately. What happened? I can't talk on the phone. Can you meet me? We met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the restaurant. I told him everything. The conversation I'd overheard, the fake daughter, the plan to have me committed. He listened without interrupting, his face growing graver with each detail. Tom, this is serious. We're talking about fraud, conspiracy, potentially attempted kidnapping. We need to go to the police. Not yet. If we move too fast, she'll run. She said she'd done this before, Richard. There might be other victims. I want to catch her and everyone involved. That's dangerous. I know. But I need your help. Can you do some digging? Find out who this Marcus is? See if there are any other Victoria Hayes out there with similar patterns. Richard nodded slowly. I have a friend in the DA's office. Let me make some calls. But Tom, promise me you'll be careful. If she's done this before, she's dangerous. I promise. Over the next 2 days, I played the perfect husband. I laughed at Victoria's jokes, held her hand, told her I loved her. Every word was ash in my mouth. But I had to make her believe nothing had changed. Meanwhile, Richard worked his magic. On Tuesday evening, he called me. Tom, you need to sit down for this. I was in my office at the restaurant. I closed the door and locked it. What did you find? Victoria Hayes isn't her real name. It's Victoria Castellano. She's done this at least 4 times before. Different states, different identities, same M.O. She targets older men with businesses, marries them quickly, and then either has them committed or, in one case, the man died suspiciously. My stomach dropped. Died? Phoenix, 3 years ago. Restaurant owner, 67 years old. Heart attack, supposedly. But his kids contested the will, claiming Victoria had isolated him and changed his medication. By the time they got a judge to listen, she'd liquidated everything and disappeared. They never recovered a dime. Jesus Christ. There's more. Marcus isn't her accomplice. He's her husband. What? They've been married for 12 years. Marcus Castellano, formerly Marcus Webb, formerly Marcus Torres. They're a team. Professional con artists. They've stolen at least $3.2 million over the past decade. I felt sick. She's married? So our marriage isn't even legal? It's bigamy, which is a federal crime. Add fraud, conspiracy, and possibly manslaughter in that Phoenix case. Tom, these people are dangerous. We need to involve the police now. Okay, but I want to catch them in the act. Can your friend at the DA's office help set something up? I'll call him. But Tom, do not confront them alone. Do you understand? I understand, but I was already forming a plan. Wednesday morning, Victoria started her act. At breakfast, in front of Sarah and 2 of my sous chefs, she expressed concern about my memory. Thomas, honey, you asked me the same question 3 times this morning. Are you feeling okay? I played, confused. Did I? I'm sorry, I don't remember. She put a hand on my arm, all tender concern. Maybe we should make an appointment with your doctor, just to be safe. Sarah looked worried. Boss, is everything okay? I'm fine, I said, a little sharply. Then, softer, just tired. The wedding, the excitement. I'm not as young as I used to be. Victoria smiled sympathetically. Of course. But let's make that appointment anyway, okay? For my peace of mind? I agreed, hating every second of it. But I needed her to think the plan was working. That afternoon, Richard called again. We're set. The DA's office is interested. They've actually been looking for the Castellanos for 2 years. But we need evidence. Can you get Victoria to talk about the plan again? On record? I can try. Give me 24 hours. That night, I told Victoria I needed to show her something in the office. There are some papers you need to see, about transferring part of the business to your name. Her eyes lit up. Really? Well, you're my wife now. It only makes sense. We went to my office. What she didn't know was that Richard had installed a recording system that morning while she was out. Audio and video. Completely legal with my consent in my own office. I pulled out some dummy documents Richard had prepared. These are the transfer papers. But before we sign anything, I want to make sure you understand what you're getting. She leaned forward eagerly. Of course. The 3 restaurants are worth about $6 million together. The real estate, equipment, everything. Once we transfer half to you, you'll be a co-owner. Thomas, that's so generous. I just want you to be taken care of. You know, in case anything happens to me. There was a flash in her eyes. Nothing's going to happen to you. Well, I'm 63. At my age, you never know. Heart attack, stroke, dementia. I watched her carefully. Though I have been feeling more forgetful lately. You were right to be concerned. She touched my hand. We'll get you checked out. I'm sure it's nothing. But if it is something, I pressed. If I do need to go somewhere for care, you'd be able to handle everything, right? The restaurants, the business? Of course. You can trust me completely. Even if my kids make a fuss? She smiled. Even then, I'd handle everything. I had what I needed. But I pushed further. You know, Victoria, I've been thinking. We should probably discuss power of attorney too, in case I become unable to make decisions. That's very practical of you. And maybe we should look into taking out loans against the properties. Expand the business. What do you think? 2 million? 3? Her pupils dilated slightly. That sounds ambitious. Well, if we're going to grow, we should grow big. Maybe even sell eventually and retire somewhere warm. I like the way you think. We could liquidate everything, transfer the money offshore, and just disappear. Start fresh. She laughed, but there was something calculated in it. You make it sound so easy, isn't it? With the right lawyer, the right documents? I paused. Marcus could probably help with that. The room went dead silent. Victoria's face froze. Who? Marcus. Your husband. She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Marcus Castellano, also known as Marcus Webb, also known as Marcus Torres, your partner in 4 previous cons. Or is it 5? I lost count. Her mask dropped completely. The warm, loving wife disappeared, replaced by something cold and predatory. You know, I know everything, Victoria. Or should I call you by your real name? I stood up slowly, keeping the desk between us. I know about the fake daughter, the forged documents, the plan to drug me and have me committed. I know about the man in Phoenix who died. I know about the 3.2 million you've stolen. Her hand went to her purse. For a terrifying moment, I thought she might have a weapon. But she just stared at me, calculating. When did you figure it out? Sunday morning. I heard you and Marcus in here. And you've been playing me since then. I learned from the best. She laughed, a harsh sound. You think you're so smart. You think you've won. I know I have. You don't know anything. You're just a lonely old man who got played. Even if you go to the police, we'll be gone before they can do anything. I wouldn't be so sure about that. That's when Richard walked in with 2 police detectives and an FBI agent. Victoria Castellano, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, bigamy, and wire fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Her face went through shock, rage, and finally resignation. They handcuffed her right there in my office. Where's Marcus? I asked the FBI agent. We picked him up an hour ago at his hotel. He's already talking, trying to cut a deal. They led Victoria out. She looked back at me once, and all I saw was contempt. You'll regret this, she hissed. No, I said quietly. I won't. The next few days were a blur. Investigators combed through my office, my files, my bank accounts. They found the forged documents Victoria and Marcus had prepared. They found communications with the doctor who was supposed to sign off on my dementia. They found evidence linking them to 4 other victims in 4 other states. The story made headlines. Local restaurant owner catches wife in elaborate con. My phone rang constantly. Reporters, well-wishers, lawyers representing other victims who wanted to testify. My kids came immediately. Melissa hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have pushed harder. I knew something was off. You tried to warn me. I didn't listen. David, my son, was quieter but just as shaken. How are you holding up? Honestly, I don't know. I thought I'd found happiness. Instead, I found a nightmare. But something unexpected came from it all. One of the other victims reached out, a man named Robert from Oregon. He'd been conned by Victoria 5 years ago, lost his car dealership. We talked for hours, comparing notes, processing the trauma. The worst part, he said, is feeling stupid, like I should have known. Yeah, I know that feeling. But Tom, you caught her. You actually caught her. That takes courage. Through the investigation, 4 other victims came forward. All older men, all business owners, all targeted the same way. Together, we worked with the prosecutors to build an airtight case. The trial happened 9 months later. Victoria and Marcus both faced federal charges. I sat in that courtroom every day, watching them try to justify what they'd done. Victoria's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim herself, someone forced into it by Marcus. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury took 3 hours to convict them both. Victoria got 18 years. Marcus got 22. When the verdict was read, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, empty, grateful, yes, that justice had been served. But also sad for the man I'd been, the one who'd believed in love at 63 and found betrayal instead. Afterward, Sarah found me in the restaurant's kitchen, where I'd gone to cook. I always cook when I need to think. Boss, you okay? Getting there. For what it's worth, she didn't deserve you. Maybe. But I also learned something. I was so lonely after my wife died that I ignored every warning sign. Melissa tried to tell me. David tried to tell me. My own gut tried to tell me. But I was too desperate for connection to listen. That doesn't make you stupid. It makes you human. I stirred the risotto I was making, watching the rice slowly absorb the broth. You know what the hardest part is? I still remember the feeling I had when I thought she loved me. That happiness, that hope, and now I don't know if I'll ever trust that feeling again. You will. Eventually. When the right person comes along. I wasn't so sure, but I nodded anyway. 6 months after the trial, I did something unexpected. I started a support group for victims of romance fraud. We meet every other Tuesday at Brennan's table. There are 8 of us now, all people who'd been targeted the same way. Some lost money, some lost businesses. One woman almost lost her life. We share our stories, our struggles, our slow journey back to trusting again. And slowly, we heal together. Robert, the man from Oregon, has become a good friend. We joke that we're in the worst club imaginable, but at least we have good company. The thing is, he said at one meeting, they almost destroyed us. Almost, but we're still here, still standing. That counts for something. It does count for something. I'm 64 now. I still run my restaurants. I still cook every day. I'm more careful now, more cautious about who I let into my life. But I'm not bitter. Bitterness would mean they won, and I refuse to give them that. My kids check in more often. Melissa calls every Sunday. David stops by for dinner every Wednesday. They worry about me, but they also respect that I'm stronger than they thought. Stronger than I thought. I've learned that loneliness can make you vulnerable, but vulnerability isn't weakness. Trusting someone isn't stupid, even if that trust is betrayed. What's stupid is letting one betrayal stop you from ever trusting again. Victoria tried to steal my restaurants, my money, my freedom, but she couldn't steal the thing that mattered most. My ability to keep going, to keep building, to keep creating. The kitchen is still my therapy. The sizzle of pans is still my meditation. And the people who come here, who eat food made with care and love, they're proof that good still exists in the world. I don't know if I'll ever remarry. Right now, I'm content with my work, my kids, my friends. Maybe someday I'll be ready to try again. Maybe not. Either way, I'm okay. I need to know that the people I care about are safe and that justice exists, even if it takes time. I think people can choose to change. I've seen it in the support group. People who were broken finding their way back to wholeness. I've seen it in myself. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Not that love is dangerous or that trust is foolish, but that resilience is possible, that healing happens, and that sometimes the worst experiences teach us the most important things about who we really are. I'm Thomas Brennan. I own 3 restaurants. I was conned by someone I thought loved me, but I caught them, I survived, and I'm still here, still cooking, still living, and that's more than enough.